when I was visiting or before I moved to Minnesota, when Lacey's doing anything like that, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make a silly video. So we had the same energy, same vibe. So that's one reason she wanted to bring me on. And I mean, I've been with her for a month and a half now, and it's been great.
Welcome to Tread Talk, the official podcast of Fury Tires, where rubber meets the road and off-road. Coming up on this episode of Tread Talk, host Jason Hempey talks with mechanic and content creator Andrew Kaplan, aka Cap, of the LB Motorsports crew. Don't go anywhere. It's sure to be a good one. Here is your host, Jason Hempey.
Welcome to Tread Talk. We are here with Andrew Kaplan, aka Cap.
Yes, sir.
I just found it. How's it going, man? How are you?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
So you've become officially Lacey Blair, who you'll see on another podcast. Right-hand man on content, and you're becoming the other famous guy on her.
You could say that, yeah.
You have your own Instagram channel as well, I
do.
believe. What's the handle?
It is that _Cap_guy. That Cap
Perfect.
guy.
And you're also obviously on Lacey's channel quite a bit as well.
I'm on Lacey's channel. Kind of more of her, I guess, secondary for the screen time, so to speak, but also her main mechanic. So I work on all her trucks, everything like that. If she needs a backup or help with her content, I'm right there. So
how did that kind of come about? Were you doing video like content or anything? Or?
No. So I mean, I do my own content, but completely unrelated semi stuff. You know, I was driving semi trucks.
Okay.
I drove trucks. Me and Lace have been friends for quite a few years.
Right.
When I lived in Texas previously, I'd always go hang out with her and Zach, help them randomly build stuff, move things that they needed. And I ended up hauling went to trucking. I was hauling cattle. I ended up moving to Minnesota earlier this year. I was up there for about 7 or 8 months or so.
Right.
I got tired of doing that. I just needed a change. Well, one night hauling cows through Nebraska, I think, 8 or 9 o'clock at night, I get this text from Lacey. And she told me she's got this new idea for LB Motorsports and the direction she wants to take it. And she wants another persona or another character, so to speak, for it.
Right.
Another face for the company. And she offered me a position. I said, you know what? Yeah, why not? So I took that. I jumped on it.
So it was like the perfect time for you.
It
basically.
was perfect timing.
Right.
It was literally the same time I was thinking about maybe moving back to Utah, where I'm originally from, and going and doing something there. I felt lost. And when that came about, I was like, yeah, I'm going to jump on this.
Seems almost like destiny, you know, like something lands on your lap right at that moment. You're looking for like a huge change.
Exactly. And I think, and like me and Lace, we've always got along. We've always worked together. I like to say energetic. I like to just have fun.
Sure. But, well, especially for content of that level, you have to be, and you got to be moving. And
everyone else, Zach and JC, they don't really like to do the TikToks and content. Well, when I was visiting or before I moved to Minnesota, when Lacey's doing anything like that, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make a silly video. So we had the same energy, same vibe. So that's one reason she wanted to bring me on. And I mean, I've been with her for a month and a half now, and it's been great.
And you're on the podcast too, I believe.
I'm on the podcast, yes, sir. There'll be mostly Lacey and myself doing the podcast, talking about whatever pops up, whatever comes about.
Well, you guys are in the shop all the time, so there's always something to talk about, build related.
There is always something to go on, and there's no telling what's going on in that shop. I'll have a project, I'll be working on something, she'll come out, she'll be like, Cap, I need a TikTok. All right, cool. So I just stop working what I'm doing, we make a TikTok, and go back to whatever.
Perfect.
And it's the best job, honestly.
So it's something, do you feel like, obviously you took a huge leap doing something completely different? You feel like that was the right choice when you think back to?
Yes and no. It is completely, I'm out of my realm. I feel, well, in a sense, I'm getting kind of more used to it.
Right.
I used to be very outgoing, and then driving semis, driving truck for, I don't know how many years, quite a few. You sit by yourself all day long. You don't talk to anyone. So I kind of lost that whole social environment interaction. And it took me a minute to get back out of my shell, come back to how I am. But it definitely feels like this is where I should be as well.
Have Have you been recognized? Has anyone like come up to you or?
Yes. And
is that weird?
It is wild.
Yeah.
It blows my mind every time. Cause I'll be working the other day. I was working on Lacey's truck, pulling the head out in the parking lot, minding my own. And people stand there watching it. Of course, why not? Someone's working on a truck. We'll watch it.
Right.
And I remember I went to the back of the truck, set the head on the tailgate, and I was standing there talking to the security guard, and he was keeping people out of the gate. And this gal came up, and he's like, "You don't have a wristband, you can't come in." She goes, "No, I just want to get a picture with him." And he pointed at me. He goes, "Him?" I said, "Me?" She goes, "Yeah." Okay. So she came up and she goes, "Oh yeah, we watch you guys all the time. Love you." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great." And they took a picture of me. I was just blown away. I'm like,
it's pretty endearing. That must have felt kind of nice.
Yeah. I was like, okay, this is just kind of cool. And then a couple other random times people would come up like, "Hey, Cap, how are you doing?" I'm like,
well, it's a nice place to be because, there's a lot of people that make content and there's a lot of people that make great content, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, it just doesn't really catch on the way they want or just doesn't work out. So
right.
Luckily working with Lacey, who's kind of already paved that way, all the hard work and everything you're putting into it is getting seen by like a pretty large audience,
right?
Which a lot of people don't have that advantage, right?
Right.
They're starting from zero, doing exactly what you still have to do, all that hard work, but they don't have the recognition or the followers. So.
Right. And I've had a pretty good following. I'd like to say a pretty decent amount.
But yours is prior to this was more trucking related.
Yep.
Okay.
This is prior to coming over here. I've always been part of the automotive industry,
right.
Mostly the diesel pickups, performance, things like that.
That was before you were.
That was before trucking, and then I had a pretty decent name there. And then going into trucking, that's where I really kind of created a name for myself and a pretty decent following.
What type of content did you do when you were doing trucking? Like,
honestly,
what would be?
It was just relatable content. It'd be videos of the trucks I'm driving, and sometimes be talking, different scenery, but mostly I'd create some kind of content, and then the words on the screen would be something that people could relate to. I mean, either be completely funny or something serious, but always something someone can share and relate. And I think that's just
it's a little more on the deeper level, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, I guess you could say the deeper level.
It was like a thinking kind of.
Yeah. But I also made a lot of good, funny content,
right?
Too. And that just to express my way, my life, I guess.
And this was while you were trucking, I guess. That was kind of sort of the theme.
Yep. And then it kind of dived off because I got so busy and wore myself out that I didn't have the time or energy to really want to create more create content.
And you have to be super consistent. You have to always be on it, really.
If you don't,
as you know now.
Yeah. Because if you don't, it falls off, and then you got to try and get back out of that hole.
That's it. And that's hard. Sometimes it's impossible too, if you let it go too long, or you have to really start basically over again, which is a lot.
Yeah.
So then you got basically, then you're trucking, and then Lacey happened, and that's where you're at now.
And then then we're doing this, and
it's kind of nice though because you're working in the shop too, so you're kind of going back to what you were originally loved and were doing.
Exactly. And so I'm not doing something completely new to me. I still got to do what I enjoy doing, working on trucks, and like we hauled 7 vehicles out here for SEMA. And so 3 pickups, 44-foot trailers.
Did you drive one of the trucks?
I did. And that's what Lacey and Zach loves it the most. He hates driving. If he's got to drive more than 30 minutes, he's upset.
I'm that way. I'm not like, I do it, you do it because you have to, but
and
it's
me,
not my
I'm
favorite.
like, when they told me we were driving SEMA, I'm like, all right, cool. Hell yeah. And they're like, no, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I've got no problem. Zach's joking. He's like, I'm just going to let you drive everything out there. I'll fly you back, grab another truck, drive out there. I'm like, okay. Like, he was joking. I was serious. I'm like, I'm not scared to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you did it for so many years that you do obviously, you grow accustomed to it.
And it does not bother me one bit.
So that life, that's definitely a very specific life that a lot of people don't know. They don't think about, how your stuff is getting from here,
A to B
and
C,
there's some big trips that have to happen sometimes.
There are. And
what's the biggest trucking you used to do? Did you just kind of stick state to state?
I did mostly Midwest, and West Coast. Well, now I guess I've been 40 of the lower 48 states.
All right.
Mostly, pretty much everything West Coast, everything Midwest, and then somewhat, I'd say 50% of the East Coast.
So what's the longest haul you had to do?
Longest haul would have been, I'd say Oklahoma to California.
That's a big one.
That's
a long one.
Yeah, that was about 1,700 miles that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's probably other ones, but
Yeah.
how
do you plan, like when you're driving? That's actually something I always wondered, because you can't know every single place. Like you're going somewhere new often you've never been. How do you plan off your stops, like where you're going to stop?
So luckily for me, when I was hauling cattle, I knew where I was loading, whatever feed yard or sale barn, anything like that, ranch I was loading at.
Right.
And then I knew my destination. You just kind of map it out. You look at the map, kind of look at where you're going, and you can kind of judge. After driving for so long, you can just kind of judge by how many miles, what time, how long it's going to take. The cities, if there's traffic's going to be real bad, you can kind of plan it out that way. Right. And luckily nowadays we have phones, so we can call. I got plenty of buddies. That's what we driving down the road. I got my headset on. I'll talk for 5, 6, 7 hours talking to friends driving.
I guess that definitely helps pass the time, because I'd imagine.
Oh yeah.
But still, like you said, I'm sure there's an element where you lose your social skills a little bit, when you're on the road all the time.
When I first got out of the truck and I was with Lacey and we go places, actually even before that, when I was in Utah, around people I knew, I was there for Randy's transmission. He had a dyno event. I went out there. I was around a bunch of people I knew that I was comfortable with. But after about 30 minutes being around them, I started feeling anxious. I got anxiety, and I've never had that before, and I did not know
like a social anxiety moment, kind of.
Yeah. And I've always heard people having that, but I've never experienced it myself. And then I started having that. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, what is this?
Well, it's a good thing you didn't go from that to this.
Oh man, yeah, I'd be
a little. Luckily, you had a transition, because I think going from that to this would have been a little scary. I was joking about that with Lacey too, because she's a little bit more on the introvert side, but she has to talk to so many. It's a big challenge for someone that isn't, naturally social, or like it's like a whole other level of energy you have to put to sort of fight that battle simultaneously while you're trying to talk to people.
It's rough too, because I've seen her when she does after a day. It's like she's just mentally drained, and it's hard for someone who's like maybe like us. It's just easy to talk to people
for sure,
and we don't really think about that part.
No, but on her side, she's also. Well, I mean, now you're obviously doing that as well, but for the longest time, she was solo. She had to come up with what she was going to post, make sure she had either, especially when she started with powder coating and, kind of what she was doing, like make sure you have the piece, it's prepped, like it's got to be ready to shoot. You can't be like holding your phone sandblast, everything's got to be ready. So then you got to shoot, then you got to edit it, then you have to, post it online, and
and
it starts adding up, it's a big day,
it is. Even with hauling cattle, like sometimes I loading the cows, because a lot of times you go to sell barns and you're loading 2:00 in the morning. No one's there. You're by yourself. And I when I'm feeling good, I want to make content, but I can't hold the phone. I've tried holding the phone and load the cattle. And sometimes you got to fight them. You got gates, you got this, you got that.
Right.
It's like, it doesn't really work out. It's worked out here and there. I got lucky, but.
Well, truthfully, if you're going to, something like that, if you were serious about it, you'd actually have to have someone with you.
Oh, for sure.
Doing the, the content.
Exactly.
Similar scenario,
exactly.
Right?
And same thing even before that when I was turning wrenches. I'd have to set the camera up just a certain way and I have to make sure I'm in frame. And you only get some of the stuff, you only get one take. And you hope you get it right, because you can't really do it again.
Yeah. Once the engine's in, you're not taking it out for
exactly.
Sorry, let me just haul this whole thing back out. That took like 3 hours to get in.
Right.
Or the camera wasn't recording.
I've done that. And it's a sick feeling.
We actually did it for one of the episodes. I was like 10 minutes in, and they're like, "Oh, okay, stop." I'm like, oh, damn it. Especially when you have a good like flow going, you got to start
right. And that's the thing. You can't just be like, okay, start all over. I mean, I'm sure they can, but it's not easy. It's like every time, like, for instance, I'm gonna throw Zach under the bus here, but we always say just one-liners to each other.
Right.
And Zach is funny, and he has some creative stuff he says, and we'll be talking about a vehicle, something broke or this or that, and Zach will say something. It is funny. And Lacey will be like, you got to say that again. And she'll go to film it. And he will not say it the way he said it, and not the original. He'll change it completely up.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, that's not what we wanted at all, but we're getting
It's hard. Once it starts getting, it's funny because when you walk around SEMA, everyone's kind of doing, there's like so much advertising and marketing. Everything, like so many people are doing, ads and I can see the people that are very comfortable, and I hear because I can kind of hear them when they're doing it and they're walking around. Then I can see the people that are just absolutely just struggling, and they're like, and then you're like, oh, I feel for you, man. It's like that's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a big challenge.
Yeah, it's hard. Not everyone's able to just sort of
jump in and flow with it. It took me a minute to kind of get used to it. Not that I'm afraid being in front of the camera or being in front of people, but just kind of the transition from, or I always thought it was a transition from going your normal to on camera. And Lacey finally told me, she goes, no, just be yourself.
That's right. That's what people want, though.
And I'm like, okay,
truthfully.
It makes sense now.
Yeah, the more yourself you are, the more it's interesting for
people. The more
people.
genuine, the more they can connect to you.
The second it gets too scripted, it really stands out like a sore thumb. It's you could tell right away it's not natural unless the person is an amazing. There's obviously people that can read. There's actors. They're amazing.
Yeah,
they're
right.
amazing. But most of those people have been doing it for so long. They're trained. They've done it. It's not an issue for them. But the average person that doesn't really do that, the second you have to read a script or something, it starts getting really awkward.
Yeah, we're awkward.
Welcome
boring.
to
prime example. A year ago when we did Lacey's Hummer giveaway, I just happened to be in town. We was in Texas. I went to go visit them. They was at a show. They asked me to do a quick ad with it. This is the giveaway, $5,000 cash, and I did that. And it took me a couple tries, and I got it down. They posted it, and then this year with the Suburban giveaway, we made an ad. And she goes, kind of here's the points, the dates it starts, this and that. Just hit those. I'm like, all right. It took me a couple tries. She goes, just be yourself. I'm like, all right. And so one of the times I just jumped out, I just went off, made my own little line, and she goes, that's perfect.
And because that was more true to
and I was like, okay, I get what you're saying now. I get where you're coming from.
Right.
That's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll one thing I wanted to maybe wrap up on was, is there like a funniest story that happened while you were trucking, like something that really stands out, something funny that you saw?
Oh man, I can't even think of that now. I've seen some creative rides going down the road.
Yeah, anything that stands out?
The guy had a plywood door on his pickup with a latch, like a gate latch.
Guess it's technically legal.
It was latched, so I was like, okay.
I don't know if that's DOT approved.
Yeah, definitely not DOT approved.
Yeah,
it would get waterlogged or something.
Yeah, that's a high risk. Not even sheet metal or anything, just wood of all things on the car.
High-speed splinters coming at you.
Yeah, yikes. Well, thanks for being here, man. One last time, what's your Instagram handle? So
that Cap guy. It's that_KAP_GAY.
And I guess you're on Lacey's as well?
I'm on Lacey's as well. Yep. Which
everyone probably already knows and has. It's fallen anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, thanks for being here.
Well, I appreciate you guys putting me on.
Thanks for watching this episode of Tread Talk. Thanks, Cap. Take it easy.